let me introduce our next speaker, Alejandra. Alejandra is a CPA in Canada, certified by Microsoft Excel expert, and has been working with Excel for over 20 years. She's advanced data cleaning techniques and will help you to knitted tables. And today you are learning in Power Query how to transform knitted tables. Enjoy it.
Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Alejandra Horvath. Thank you for joining my session today. Thank you, Excel Virtually Global, for having me for the second time. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this amazing event. My session today is called Transforming Nested Tables with Power Query. In this session, we are going to learn data cleaning techniques, transforming nested tables. So before we start, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I'm a CPA in Canada. I'm a certified Excel expert working with Excel for over 20 years. I love teaching Excel and Power Query. And I have a YouTube channel where you can find several videos on these topics, especially Power Query. I live with my dog Maya and my two cats, Oli and Gasparin. So let's start because we have a lot to see. So let's start. Here I have a folder on my desktop. Inside of my folder EVG 2023, my folder is called Sales. I have 6 PDF files. I'm going to open all of them so you can see the content of these files. These files have the information for the weekly sales for every single store that we have in our company, let's say, in our organization. So you will see that week 1 has a column for the week, has an empty column, the store number, the product, and the sales. So you can see that the first week has 3 columns for the sales. Week 2 has an empty column to start with, as the weeks. It doesn't have that empty column that week 1 has between week and store, and it has more products than the week before, but it also has an empty column in the middle of the sales, right? So week 3 has different products. Some of them might be similar, some of them might be different to the previous weeks, has empty column in the middle. Week 4 has empty columns after the week, inside of the sales. So there is no consistency on the empty columns. This week 5 has not empty columns at all, and so on and so forth. It makes a little bit tricky when we want to combine all these files into one big table, right? And I'm going to close these files, all of them. As I said, they are PDF. And the goal here, I'm going to just open my solution here. The goal in here is to combine all those tables from week 1 to week 6 and normalize that data. So I have only the week, the store, and I have all the products in one column. Same thing with the amounts, only in one column. And as I mentioned, every single table is inconsistent with the other ones, right? So you can see here I brought all those tables, and at the end of the day, I have only one big table with all the weeks, with all the stores, the products, and the amount. And let's start. Let's create a new workbook. I have the icon here. You can also press Ctrl N and create a new workbook. And from here, we're going to go to Data, Get Data, from File, from Folder. I want to bring all the files inside of that folder called Sales on my desktop, EVG 2023, Sales. Double click there and then click at Open. Here you can see the 6 files that I just showed you. Here, we're going to click at Transform Data. We are not ready to load. We need to transform that data first, and then we will be able to load it to Excel. As you might be aware, there are several ways to do things in Power Query and obtain the similar results. What I'm going to show you here is only one way how we can transform these nested tables. And I like these techniques because I don't have to create a custom function. That could be another way to combine all these tables and normalize the data. Transforming nested tables has been very useful to me, so that's why I want to share that with you. And even transforming nested tables, there are several approaches or several techniques. I'm just going to show you the one that has worked for me the best. Here on my column content, I have my files in a binary form. I want to convert this into tables. So first of all, Control-Shift+ to zoom in. On the left, I have the name of my query, and that is the name of my folder. Power Query name, my query, and the same as the folder. I'm gonna leave it as that. That's fine. I'm gonna just hide that part so I have more room here on the table. And here on the formula bar, I'm gonna provide two sets of square brackets. And that is because I only want to keep one column from this table. I don't want to bring everything else. Here I'm going to provide the name of that column. If I wanted to bring a column as a list, then I only provide one set of square brackets. In my case, I want to bring or keep only a column. That's why I'm providing two sets of square brackets. This is called projection. If I wanted to keep more than one column, then I could provide inside of the first set of square brackets, I would provide all the names of all the columns that I want to keep. So let's say if I wanted to keep the column name as well, so I provide that, I separate that by a comma, and the name of the column will be inside of one set of square brackets, right? Let's say if I press enter, I keep only the column content and name. In my case, I don't need the name. The tables already have that information in, so I don't need that. I'm gonna press enter and I just keep my column content. I'm gonna create another step here on the formula bar. I'm gonna click at FX. If you don't have the formula bar visible, you can go to view and make sure that formula bar here on layout has the check mark. Then you will be able to have your formula bar visible. And as I said, there are several ways to obtain the same results in Power Query. I'm going to say here equals table, transform columns, open parentheses. It's going to ask me for a table. The table is coming from my source, comma, transform operations as a list. So I'm going to say for all the columns in this table, I want that you, Power Query, help me to transform this information into tables coming from my PDF files. I'm going to press enter. And now you see that binary changed to table. And now you click there, you can see the content of those files can be page or it can be a table. I want the tables, I don't want the pages. So this, as I said, this is one way to obtain this information. I can expand this column and bring only the information, let's say in data and kind. I need those two columns. I can press those two and say, okay. And then you will see page and table. I don't want that. I want only the tables, and then I will have to select only the tables here. By doing this, I have only the tables, and that's what I want. If I bring pages and tables, I'm going to have that information duplicated. I prefer to work with the tables. That's the reason why I filter this information by the tables. Now you can see I have 3 steps here on the right, here where it says apply the steps. That's information that I have. Let's make a change in here. So this is one way how we can get to this point. I'm going to remove the last 2 steps and I'm going to modify this step. Custom one that reminds me that I didn't rename my steps. So I'm going to say this is going to be my content. I'm going to modify this function table transform columns. And here I'm going to delete this. And remember, table transform columns is going to ask me for a table that is coming from the previous step source. And then I need to provide the transform operations as a list. Let's open the curly brackets. The column that I want to transform will be the column content, comma. And I need to provide, of course, the transformation as nullable function. So I'm going to say each. That is the keyword for a function. Shift enter to go to the next line. I'm going to do that twice. I'm going to work with nested lets. Say let. Anything that is inside of the expression let will be considered a variable, and that variable will have values. The values are going to be the result of the functions that I'm going to provide here. A will be my first variable, equal to PDF tables. I want to bring the content of this column. Remember that it was binary before? So now that is the information that I'm going to provide to this function, PDF tables, PDF as binary. That's correct. That is what is coming from my source step, comma, shift enter. B is my second variable. I'm going to say equal. I'm going to filter through here. So table select rows, open parentheses. The table is coming from my previous step, which is variable A. Now I have my tables, not as binary, but as I can see that here, they are tables now, so I can work with them. Table select rows. Remember the condition. Remember that the column kind, and before I do that, I need to provide the keyword each. Otherwise, it's not going to do anything. So equal kind must equal tables. I don't want to bring the pages. I want to bring the tables. Close the parentheses for table select rows. Shift enter. I'm not going to provide a comma because that's all that I want here. I'm going to close the expression let with the expression in. I want to bring the result of the variable b. Close the curly brackets. Close the parentheses for the table transform columns. Press enter. Now if I go here, I get the same result that I had with all the other steps, but now everything is in one step. And I just like to work in this way. I just find it cleaner in my eyes to have only one step, one function that is transforming or is processing two steps at once, let's say. So I just find this much more useful when I'm checking my code. If you want to see all your code, you can go to View, Advanced Editor, and that's where you can see all the code right here. Control Shift plus to zoom in, and just to make it a little bit easier to read, Control closing square brackets to indent. So it just looks a little bit better, I would say. And let's do that too. Okay. Right here. Done. Just easier to read. Now that we have this information, we are bringing only the tables. I'm going to go to here to my column content, expand, and I'm going to expand only the column data. That's the one that brings all my tables. Here I'm going to just say expanded for the name of my step. And now if I take a look, let me minimize this or collapse this. And here, let me just bring information from table from week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on and so forth. So I can see now my tables here. I'm going to create another step. Click at FX. I'm going to expand this again. And now what I need to do, as you can see in here on the tables, every single table has the headers on the first line. I'm going to start transforming those tables as they are here inside of this column. They are nested, and that's what we're going to transform. Let's say equal table transform columns again. This and open parentheses, the table is coming from my previous step, expanded, comma. I need to provide the transformation as a list. And inside of the list, I'm going to say that I want to transform my column data, comma. I need to provide the transformation as a nullable function. Shift Enter. I'm going to say let again. I'm going to provide the name of my variable. This time I'm going to use an M. And I'm going to say that I want to promote headers. Table, promote headers. Open parentheses. The tables are already on my column data. And that's why I'm going to provide only the underscore. That refers that I'm asking Power Query to check every single line of this column. Comma. Oh, actually, no comma. I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to close this with the in expression. And I want the result to be the value of my variable M. Press Enter. And now you can see that all your tables will have here the first line promoted as headers. I can try to combine all these tables at this point of time. So I can say fx, I can click at that fx equal table combine, open parentheses. I need to provide the tables as list. So for that reason, I provide only one set of square brackets, provide the name of the column that I want to bring as a list, press enter, close parentheses for table combine, and I press enter. If I do that at this point of time, all the tables are going to be here, included here. But you can see, for example, week 1 only had 3 products, product E, D, and G. But because I'm combining with all the other tables, all the other columns with all the other products will be also included here. In this case, I'm just working with very small tables. The set of data is very, very small. But what about if you're working with thousands of products or thousands of stores? This table is going to be extremely long and might not be the most efficient way to combine all these tables. For that reason, I'm going to delete this custom 2. And that reminds me, I haven't changed the name of this step. Here is where we transform the column data. I'm just going to say column data. So now that I did that, my next step is identifying which columns I want to keep and which columns have similar information that I can combine only in one column. I can keep the week and the store as they are, and I will combine all the products in one column and all the amounts in another column. And we're going to do that here on my formula bar. We're going to modify this code. I'm going to provide the comma because I'm going to add another variable. I'm going to press enter. And is the name of my next variable equal. And we're going to do table unpivot other columns. This one. Open parentheses. The table is coming from my variable M. That is the table that we are seeing here for every single line, comma. What is the columns that I want to keep as they are? And I need to provide that information as a list. Open curly brackets. That's telling Power Query that this is a list. The columns that I want to keep is column week. Remember, the Power Query is case sensitive. So then if the name of the column is in capitals, that's how I have to write it here. Just the same way that here. And store, same thing with in capitals. Store. Those are the 2 columns that I want to keep as they are, comma. After the closing curly brackets, provide the comma. What is the attribute column? I need to provide that as a text. What is the title of that column? That will be product. Product. I'm providing that new name, let's say, to that column, comma. What is the title of the column that is going to have the amounts? That's going to be amount. Go to the end. I don't need the I have the closing I have the closing parentheses. I don't need the comma because this is the last variable. What I need to change here after the in, I need to provide what is the value that I want to bring as a result of this function. It will be the value of my variable n. I'm going to press enter. And now you can see that we unpivoted other columns. We kept our column week and our column store as they were. Now we have all the products combined in one column product, and all the amounts on my column amount. You can see that because this information is aligned to the left, I can tell that the amounts are text. I'm going to expand this just very quickly so you can see. I'm going to click at these two arrows. I'm going to expand all the columns. We're not going to keep this step. I just want to show you that this information is recognized or is identified as a text. Here, I don't have an identified column type. If I click at that square and I change, let's say, to whole number, now this has changed to 1, 2, 3. Instead of having ABC 1, 2, 3, now it has been identified as a number, and now you see that is aligned to the right. Well, we are going to do this on the nested table. I don't want to do that in here. I want to do it on the nested table. And since I'm here, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to select the whole function here. I'm going to remove this step, and I'm going to remove the expanded data step. Here on my step transform data, I'm going to expand my formula bar. I'm going to add a new variable. After the comma, I'm going to provide, after the closing parenthesis, I'm going to provide a comma, shift enter. My next variable will be O. This is equal to, I'm going to paste what I just copied. So you find it very useful. If I don't remember exactly what I need to provide to a function, even though I have the intelligence telling me what is needed, sometimes I'm not too sure how I need to provide that information. What I do, I perform that step using the ribbon, or as you saw, I just click at the rows and I click transform the data type. So I just copy that and then I just modify small pieces of that information. So in here, what the table transform column types is asking me is a table. In my example, it came from my step expanded data. I don't have that here. I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to provide where the tables are coming from, and that is from my variable n. That is the tables inside of this column data. Next thing that I need to provide to this function is the type transformations as a list. I already have it. I need to transform the column amount, and I need to transform this as a whole number. The type is integer 64. I don't provide the comma. This is the last variable here. I'm going to go and modify the result, which is the value of my variable O. Go to the end, press enter. And now you see that the amounts are aligned to the right, which means now they are recognized as a whole number. I can do the same for the other columns. I can modify the data type for week, store, and product as a text. I can do that in here, or I can leave it like that. It doesn't affect me if it's not recognized as text. But what affects me for sure is the amount to be recognized as a number. Excellent. Now, if I take a peek here, now I can combine my tables from here. I'm going to click at FX. After the equal, I can say table combine. Open parentheses, I need to provide the tables as a list. As we saw before, I just need to provide the name of the column with the tables inside of one set of square brackets, close parentheses at the end. And now I have all the information from all the weeks, all the stores. Here now we have week 2. Everything is combined in a proper form. You can see that I have my amount recognized as number, and everything else, our query is smart enough to recognize that this is text. It has the ABC. If I click here, you can see the ABC is text. Perfect. I'm going to rename my last step, and I'm going to say table combine. enter, and this is ready to go. I can bring this information to Excel. I can go home, close and load to, and I can pass this as a table or as a pivot table. Let's pass this as my pivot table, and I want this on the existing worksheet. Here on B2 is fine. I'm gonna say okay. Here I will have the options for that pivot table. I can have the amount here, the product, even in here on the rows, the week on the columns, and I can have this information. I'm going to click inside of the pivot table, right click, number format. I'm going to use the 1000 separators, 0 decimals. I'm going to say okay. Now we have that information here ready to go from A to O2. I can even have that information by store, let's say right here, or have it here, or have it in the filters. Let's say I'm going to have it right here where I have all the stores. I have a total of 40 stores so far. What happens if I have new information in that folder? Remember that here we have our 6 PDF files. I'm going to go back one folder where I have a folder called additional. I'm going to double click there. I have two files there, week 7 and 8. I'm going to open them. I'm going to press enter. So here I have week 7, and this week has store 41 and 42 that we didn't have before. Week 8, we have up to 43 stores. Also, you will notice that the products are going to be a little bit different. Now I have product W, product Y right here, and week 7. Let me see what else I have. I think, and I have in this one, I have the week on the last column. Most of the other files have the week on the left, right? And oh, here I have product set, and you will find new items, new products, or new stores in these files. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to close all tabs. Control C to copy. I'm going to go to our folder sales, double click there, Control V to paste. Now I have them here. I'm going to right click inside of my pivot table, and I'm going to refresh. You can see that now I have product set, W. Let me just organize this from A to Z. Now you can see WY set. We have 8 weeks now. We don't have 6, we have 8 weeks. And if I go to store, it's a little bit bigger. If I go here to the filter store, I can see that I have up to 43 stores. This is great. Even if I want to create a pivot table per store, I want to keep exactly the same structure. I want to keep the same style. I can go to pivot table analyze options, show report filter pages. I want to select the store is the only filter that I have here. If I had more filters, I would have those options here. I'm going to select store there. It's already selected. I'm going to say OK. And you can see that Excel is working and is presenting all the stores here at the bottom. You can see that every single pivot table will have the information per store. So that is just a big time saving, something that I really appreciate. One thing is if you modify your original pivot table, I still have my original pivot table. If you modify this, let's say, let's go back to our Power Query. I'm going to go to here on the right. I'm going to go to my query, double click on my query sales. And let's say here, I'm going to add a column where I'm going to multiply my total, my amount, let's say by 5%. That is the tax, let's say. Let me move this one down. Here on the formula bar, I'm going to expand that. And I'm going to say in here, I'm going to add new variable, comma, shift enter. P is the name of my next variable, equal to table add column, open parentheses. I need to provide a table. The table is coming from my variable O, is those tables that we're seeing here, comma. And the name of the new column, it will be tax, capitals, comma. And what do I want to process inside of that new column? I'm going to say each process the following. I want you to bring the information that you have in the column amount, and you're going to multiply that by 0.05, which is 5%, right? That's the goods and services tax. And that's what I want you to have there, comma, and the type, it will be integer again. Oh, actually, I want to see the decimals on this one, so type number. By providing this type number, I will be able to see decimals. If I want whole numbers, then I would provide integer 64 dot type. And instead of bringing the value from my column, from my variable O, I'm going to provide variable P. Let's see, I'm going to click at the check mark. And now you can see that my tables have the amount and the column tax. And that column tax is the 5% from my column amount. So I'm going to go back to close and load again. And here on my pivot table, let me go back here. Now you can see that I have the column tax available for me to bring to this, to my values. And let's say now I don't want to see the amount. I'm going to remove it. And I just want to see the tax that is available to me now like this. But the pivot tables that you created over here are not updated automatically. You will need to delete them if you don't want to keep that information and you want to have the information per store based on the tax. Then you will need to delete all the pivot tables that you created. So I'm going to select the store 43. I'm going to press Control, and I'm going to click at the left arrow to go to the first tab. I'm going to press Shift, and I'm going to click the first tab that I have here. Right click and delete. By doing this, I select from store 43 to store 10 that I have at the beginning. I'm going to click delete, and I have only my original pivot table. And by doing that, remind me, I'm going to go to design, report layout, and I want this in tabular form. You can see here the titles correctly. Once I have this information here, I'm going to do the same right click, number format. I don't have thousands, but I'm going to go to number. I'm going to anyways click 1000 separators. For the future, I want only one decimal, let's say. I'm going to say okay. And that's the information that I need. So now that I have this, I can go to pivot table analyze, options, show report filter pages. And I can actually have the store, and probably I'm going to move the product there. So, and I'm going to move the store, let's say this time to the rows. So I have all these stores right here. Oh, of course, week 7 and 8 are the ones that start having store 41, 42, and 43 in the last week, for example. So what I can do now in the product, I'm going to go to pivot table, analyze, options, show report filter pages. I'm going to say okay. And now I will have my pivot tables for every single product. All the stores are listed here. Perfect. So now you are ready to go. Now I can press Control and the right arrow, and it takes me to the last tab, or if the last tab is visible. So here I have my original pivot table. I hope you found these techniques useful. I like to transform nested tables. I find it more useful sometimes than creating my custom functions. Of course, you can evaluate every single scenario or every single case, but in my experience, I just find it very useful. And just one more thing before we go to the questions and answers session. If you want to get in touch, you can find me in YouTube, youtube.com at Alejandra Horvath, LinkedIn. You can find me as Alejandra Horvath, of course. Instagram, you can find me as Empowered to Excel. And soon I will be launching my website for Empowered to Excel as well. So stay tuned for more details later on. Also, if you want to provide your feedback on my presentation, Transforming Nested Tables Power Query, Alejandra Horvath, you can scan the QR code or follow the link. The Microsoft team is seeking research participants. So you can also scan the QR code here or follow the link. This is all from me. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that you attended to my session. Thank you again, Excel Virtually Global, for having me this year and this wonderful, wonderful event. And I'll be here for any questions that you may have or any comments. Any constructive feedback is very welcome, as it helps me to prepare better sessions in the future. Thank you, and I'll see you or I chat with you very soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Alejandra. It was amazing. I learned a lot from you today. Thank you for everyone that's watching. Please share your feedback in the bit.ly-avg 2023 feedback or follow the QR code. Alejandra, are you here? We have some questions for you.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much. I'm very glad that you like the session. Thank you, and thank you everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. So we have so far 4 questions for you. The first one
Oh, yeah.
is how to deal with column names that are case inconsistent but are in the same position.
So, if in this example, the columns had different names, right?
Right.
However, in my case, that's why I like to transform in the way that I did it, because regardless of the name of the column, the process is gonna work properly, let's say, because it's gonna transform every single table individually in every single line because it's a nested table, right? So every single line will have a table. Now, the issue could be with the columns that are not unpivoted, right? So the columns that stay on the left and they don't change. So in that case, probably what I would do, they are always in the same position, but the name is inconsistent. So what I could do then, I would demote the column name. So the headers, I could demote them to the first line. And that could tell me that column 1 and 2 and 3, or the numbers of the columns that never change, so those columns stay in the same way, or something. I could look for some solution in that way, or to rename them somehow to figure out how to keep them without unpivoting, right? Because the problem here could be if those columns are not going to be unpivoted, then you will need to find strategies like that, trying to make the names of all those tables in the same way. You need to find an identificator that is going to be the same in every single table. I could need to look at specific cases, but my first thoughts are just probably demoting the headers or something like that to have every single table with the same names. At least that's my first thought. I hope that helps.
Thank you. The next question, I think you explain a little bit for us, but the person asks, can you please explain a little bit more about the logic behind using two square brackets to choose columns from a table?
So when you have, let's say, you have a step after the step source. The step source will have several tables, several columns. So if I want to bring one of those columns as a list, I can just provide one set of square brackets. At the end of the day, one set of square brackets. At the end of the day, what I have in my table are records, right? So what I'm bringing is only one field of that record. And that table, that column will bring that information, and it comes as a list. So when I provide the double square brackets, it's going to bring me one column of that table. And that's what I mean when I say that that is called projection. So you are just keeping or bringing in only the columns that you are indicating in those square brackets.
Great. Now, this trick I learned today from you. I didn't know how to use. So I was impressed in how to use and grab columns just using 2 square brackets.
I know that's very useful. Honestly, you don't need to create another step to delete columns or to select columns. If you have only 2-3 columns that you need to keep, it's just so easy to do that, to have this double set of square brackets. One set of square brackets is going to kind of group all the columns that you want to keep, and you're going to separate every single column with one set of square brackets and separate that with a comma. So it's just so useful. Of course, if you have 20 columns, might not be that useful, but if you have a couple of columns that you want to keep or you want to bring only, then it's super useful. You don't need a long code, right? Because every single step adds up. So if you can find strategies like that, your code looks cleaner. And sometimes it's just easier to understand. And especially when you don't use that query for a while, you go back and then you have a long code to review, having less steps in cases like this, it really makes a difference for me.
Great. About your last sentence, the next question is about that. Based on your experience, can combine too many steps in Power Query, does it slow the model or is it a myth?
You need to be careful the steps that you have into only one step, let's say, all the processes that you are performing in that step. I like to have, let's say, if I'm going to use the function table transform columns for the next 3 steps, that function gives me the opportunity to keep all those steps inside of that same function. For me, I don't see the point of creating one step or table transform columns to transform one thing in that column, create another step to transform another thing in the same column, and another step with the same function transforming other thing in the same column. So I find it more efficient for my understanding when I'm doing my code is to create only or to transform that column through one step through the same function. It has only different variables. It's just, in my opinion, it's more efficient. However, if you are going to create steps that are not the most efficient ways to transform your data, what I want to explain is not having one step doesn't mean that it's going to be more efficient. You need to think about the way that you are creating or you are transforming your data in that step. But I just find it very useful to use that step and minimize my code. And again, I go back to the same thing. I just find it more efficient when I need to go back months or weeks later and trying to figure out what I was trying to do. Right? So for that reason, put comments because they really help. So yes, I hope I answered what you were asking.
Yes, you did. Thank you. And last question is for, I think is Tahoe.
Yes.
Thank Alejandra for your presentation. Do you know how we can dynamically change column types without hard coding column names?
Actually, there is my next video will present something like that. When I want to transform data for my whole table, but in that case, all the table is one type, let's say it's all text. So there is a way, there is a function, and I have seen that function a little bit recently. And that's why I want to share it, because it is, I don't have it right now with me, and I honestly, I don't remember at this point the steps that I need to do. But it's very useful. You can use a function and you can do it. But unfortunately, I don't have it right now. If this person wants to give you the information for in LinkedIn, I can contact this person and I can let them know. So because there is a function that I can use, but the thing with this function is that the whole table has to be transformed as one type. That is the trick with this function. I don't remember right now at the top of my head if there is another way, but that is the one that I have been using and it's very fresh in my mind. so yes. But yeah, I could need to do a little bit more research on on which function I'm gonna present. So, and that's why I do my videos, because it helps me to learn more and to remember, because later on I don't remember, I also watch my own videos. So
Yes, I think
yes.
I have the same problem.
Yes, it's just so much information that I just don't remember. If I'm not using it at the moment, I just don't remember. And when I watch the video, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's how I did it. So, and I haven't had time to prepare the video for this. I don't want to give wrong information.
Great. And we have one more question here. That one is
Yes.
good. Yes, what are your tips, suggestions for using Power Query or writing M codes?
Well, practice, 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 practice. And also, honestly, I learned Power Query because I was preparing my videos in my channel, and the questions that people were asking were creating that need of learning. And the more that they ask, the more that I learn. So I would recommend teach what you learn. As soon as you learn it, try to teach it and try to practice as much as you can. And start from the basics. Don't try to create fantastic and very advanced code. Start from little steps, but do it constantly, and you see you will surprise yourself. And the first thing when you are starting with Power Query, use the user interface. It's amazing. You can get so much work done from the user interface. Try to use it as much as you can, but pay attention to the code that is created through that step that you're creating with the user interface. It's gonna open your mind, it's gonna make you feel more comfortable, and it's gonna help you to practice more and more. And of course, if you can take courses, but if you cannot do that, then the Excel, actually the data community is amazing. You can find so much information around. There are so many tutorials, great tutorials. So start looking into and practice. As again, I won't get tired of saying practice, practice, practice.
Can I ask if you can share some websites that you, when you have some doubts, where did you Google it?
So start with Celia Alves. I learned Power Query because of her. So I am here because of her. So the first videos that I watched from Power Query were from Celia Alves, and she was presenting like 5 hours ago or so. So yeah, please take a look to her website. She has tons of videos on Power Query, and I learned because of her. And then I discovered Win Hopkins. Fantastic. So they were the first two that I look at and I started learning from. I could recommend Goodly, Chandeep Chabra. You can see the YouTube channel from him, and Rick the Groot. I hope I'm pronouncing properly. Gorilla BI. He's fantastic, and he has the Power Query How website. Fantastic. You want to learn and you want to have all the documents there all in one place, go to his website, Power Query How. There are so many. I don't want to miss any of the ones that I always look at. So those would be just a few of the examples of the people that I have learned from. And of course, please take a look to my channel because that is a reflection of what I have learned. But yeah, those are the ones that the first ones that come to my mind. But there are way too many more that I'm just not. I don't have in my mind. It's just the nervous to be here. so, but yeah, take a look and just Power Query, and you will see so many wonderful videos.
Thank you so much. I will save your channel and I will follow you to learn more.
Thank you. Yes, please subscribe. If you like what you see there, please subscribe. It helps me to grow in YouTube. Thank you.
For sure. Thanks so much. And thanks so much everyone for watching this video so far. Please share your feedback in bit.ly/AVG 2023 feedback or through your QR code. Also, if you have any question, Alejandro will be more than happy to answer you later. Thanks so much. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for attending. Thanks.